all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony Sie. Of course, this is the Hour of Politics, a Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Focus on Liberia is pleased to welcome as guests into this edition of the Hour of Politics, Councillor Tiawan Gongloe, 2023 presidential aspirant, the Liberian People's Party. Councillor, it's good to have you. This is not your first time. Welcome. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I think this is my third time in your studio.
Talking about third time, we are happy.
Maybe the fourth time because you talked to me in this at a program in Minnesota, but in studio I've appeared 2 times, and this is the third year.
That is correct, and we are happy and glad to always have you. The nation Liberia needs a leader, and I may add need leaders, and you are saying you want to be one of those leaders Liberia can count on, this time at the presidential level. That is the big one. And so we invited you today to talk about the vision. Vision is key. It is so key when it comes to leadership. It is how the leader sees the country and where they want to take that country, so that that country can be respected, so that its people can live a life that can be appreciated. And so welcome. But you have been visiting the United States. You were here a few months ago and you are back again. How has it been so far before we get into today's discussion?
It has been quite fine. It's been better than before. At first, people were not accustomed to the fact that as an advocate, I was becoming a politician. There are many people who want me to remain an advocate, to speak for them. As the street, the challenge youth industry usually say, the man who can speak for us, they prefer for me to do that. And I've been told in America, hey, why you want to leave advocacy, then who will talk for us? But that's an easy part. I want to do and not just to talk. And so people are now accustomed to the idea that I am a politician, no more just an advocate. And so I came here. When I went back on the ground, I started visiting the interior. I went to places that no politician had been to before, because my vision is captioned in 5 words.
Okay.
A better Liberia is possible. And I have a 10-count agenda for a better Liberia. Okay. I strongly believe that a better Liberia is possible. If I not felt that way, I would have been working with the UN or with some NGO, because I've had my chance of working internationally. I worked with the United Nations in South Africa in 1994 as one of the United Nations observers. I worked with Carter Center as an electoral consultant in 2005 in Ethiopia. I could have stayed abroad, but I strongly believe that our country can be much, much better than it is today. And I strongly believe that I should be one of the persons to do it. As John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I don't want to point fingers at other people to do it. That's what I've been advocating for people in power to do the right thing, to uplift the Liberian people, but they refuse to do so. So what's wrong with me as a Liberian? I have an obligation to do it. That's why I'm stepping forward.
And Councillor, you are convinced that some of our leaders who have been aspiring for the presidency have not been able to do the things that are required in a bold faction to move Liberia forward. You are saying that is one of the reasons, and more so that you are well suited. So talking about that suitability, how can you explain that suitability that gives you an edge as a better leader among those who are aspiring for this position?
First, I was a student activist,
Mhm.
a student leader from high school,
Mhm.
and I was always thinking about the country, and the way I was thinking about the country was to criticize what was wrong. Even under the three-party regime, when we had a virtual one-party state, although our
Mhm.
constitution of 1847 allowed for multi-party state, but we had a virtual one-party state, and it made governance difficult. Governance was not for the benefit of all Liberians as we saw it then.
Mhm.
And then after the coup, the same thing persisted, and we were critical. And then under Taylor, we were critical. Under President Sirleaf, I resigned as a cabinet minister. That's a job that people are going to pray in people for. That's a job that sometimes people are going to go to witch doctors to bring him up as and all kinds of things just to become a minister.
You think people really do that, Councillor?
I think so. Oh wow, we've had. You remember the Maryland case of 1979?
Yes, I read about it. I heard about it.
All right, so the evidence is there right there in history, and so I resigned from that job because the ship of state was not being conducted in a manner that would benefit the whole of Liberia,
Mhm.
especially with the selective application of the law and not combating corruption to save resources for the protection and welfare of the Liberian people. So I left the government because I began to feel that staying in government will make me a co-conspirator against the best interest of the Liberian people. You don't change, you don't promote change by silence. At every time in history, a man's view must be known. And when I say a man's view, I also mean a woman's view must be known.
Mhm.
At every critical juncture in a society, nobody knows your viewpoint by remaining silent or by not writing. But I've been writing, I've been speaking, and I can be judged by later on when I become president by what I've written and what I've said. And everything I've said and written as being about good governance and rule of
Thank you.
law, respect for human rights. That is why I feel I'm suited. And not only have I written and spoken, I have suffered for it. When a man stands up and for his view, he suffers by going to jail, or he risks being killed, or he's denied opportunities, or he makes sacrifices by giving opportunities away, like resigning from a ministerial post, as I did,
Mhm.
that person has to be respected for standing up, because that's not something that
Thank you, Councillor. And
we're
Councillor, if I may, there is this narrative I'm quite sure you are aware of. You travel the world, that the Black race is more than likely to self-govern. But let us bring it to Liberia. Will you agree or disagree that has been the case for the most part in Liberia? It said that we as a people, we are not able to govern ourselves, or it say more so that our leaders have not been able to give our people in our country the governance that we deserve as a people.
Brother Sie, it is that
Yes.
notion
Mhm.
that stimulates me
Mhm.
to prove the falsity of that view.
Mhm.
We are human beings just like any other race.
Mhm.
We are capable of governing ourselves.
Mhm.
In fact, it was the founding dream in 1847. If you read the Declaration of Independence,
Mhm.
that Liberia will show to the rest of humanity that Black people, African people are capable of governing themselves. And
Mhm.
Liberia will be a shining example of that ability to self-govern.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that dream has not been realized because of greed and selfishness that has led to corruption and undermine good governance. because it is that selfishness and greed that make leaders corrupt, and corrupt leaders cannot uphold the law, because upholding the law will not provide an opportunity to engage in corruption and acquire wealth. I want to make sure that I govern Liberia in a way that we create millionaires outside government than millionaires inside government.
Okay.
This is what happens. America and others are not like 100% free of corruption, but they largely govern for the benefit of the people. So that's why they can create Bill Gates, they can create Steve Jobs, and all these millionaires. Even Nigeria created Dangote. You know, we can create our own millionaires outside government if we govern properly to create the atmosphere for people to benefit from their hard work and their talent. And I think it's possible. Liberians are very talented, and they can follow the law. Look, Liberians work in America and they don't steal. They work with companies. Even in Liberia, they work with Lamco before, and we didn't hear Liberians stealing. They work right there with Firestone. They don't steal. They go to work on time. They follow all the rules and regulations of the company. If you have a leader who is prepared to govern by example, like President Tobo used to do. I was on the university campus from 1977 to 1981, and President went to 1980 because in 80 he was overthrown. But the man used to live in Bensonville. I really admired that. He used to come to work 7:30. 7:30, when I'm entering the bathroom, I hear that siren. I said that President Tobo coming. He will enter the executive mansion. He will go upstairs. He will say his prayer in the chapel, come down on the 4th floor, as my uncle, who was an SSS officer, used to explain to me. And then he will organize his work, give some instructions. 9 o'clock, he goes to visit the ministries. If a minister is not there, you are fired. Because of that, everybody started going to work on time, and government became more productive than before.
Wow.
You know, so we need just one good example. You know, I mean, Rawlings came to power by coup d'etat, but he is credited for the transformation that exists in Ghana today. All right. The president of Botswana, their first president, Sarisi Kama, left a legacy of honesty in government. That's why in 1966, when he became president, the budget of the country was $3 million. But for his honesty, subsequent presidents have upheld high level of integrity in the governance of Botswana, to the extent that by 2004, 2005, the budget was $4 billion United States dollars. And brother, see, this is a landlocked country. Botswana is landlocked, with 70% of the country covered by the Kalahari Desert. Less than 3 million people. But you go to Botswana, from all accounts, it's like you are in Europe. And the government is providing all of the social services in the area of health, education. They even try in that desert to grow their own food, provide a lot of their own food that they eat. So and they have road network. These are the kind of things that I'm thinking about for Liberia. That Liberia will uphold the law and govern in a way that makes Liberia the great country and the example it was meant to be from the time of our independence.
So, Councillor, before we go into what your vision is, for example, the youth, entrepreneurship, the economy, and some other areas, I would like to know your vision for Liberia. Which one is it that you think you have to be firm on that will serve as that catalyst? I know you use the word an example, that you want to be an example like Tobo was, all right? But I'm looking for that vision among the things that you have in mind for Liberia. Which one you think that you have to be strong on, that will be first, that will serve as a catalyst for the rest of them to fall into place?
Rule of law.
Why?
Rule of law. Police must do its work without interference, properly and in the interest of everyone, and police will be rigorously monitored to remain professional.
Okay.
And rule of law has two tiers: the enforcement of law in the street and the independence of the judiciary. Those two
Okay.
will not be compromised because they provide the atmosphere for investment and social economic development. A country that is not governed by rule of law can go nowhere because lawlessness creates chaos. That is the foundation for peace and stability.
And you think that is doable in a Liberia that you know Liberia better than me,
I am
given
the
your
best.
experience.
I'm the best suited among all of the candidates that we know now and the one that will come. Why? Not because I'm a lawyer. I've been lawyer for 34 years, but because I've been a human rights defender and speaking against bad governance, against lawlessness, against lack of respect for rule of law and human rights. I have written about it in newspapers and in journals. I wrote a leading article in the Liberian Democracy Journal that talks about Liberia's experience with the separation of powers. I work with the police as Solicitor General. I also teach at the police academy whenever they call me free of charge. My last work with the police was as president of the bar. I was the chairman of the Civilian Complaint Review Board of the police. So I know exactly what to do to make the police functional. The police director used to tell me, the chairman, you say all this, but we don't have the logistics. We all gasoline sellers. We can't move our vehicles. Today, when you go to any police station, they tell you can't register your case, you go to complain. There's no basis for that's corruption. So the lack of attention on the police promotes corruption in the police. The government should make the police capable of doing its duties because our protection, the investigation of corruption, the investigation of drug abuse, everything, is with the police. If you don't make the police work, the free flow of traffic, nightlife in Monrovia, people have imposed curfew on themselves because they don't feel safe. No, we cannot compromise the work of the police. Police would be taking care of number one in my government because I know it very well.
And Councillor, now you're talking about the police. I think it has to do with image, and you can correct me here. As somebody who has been fortunate to travel to other countries, I went to Canada, I went to the UK, and some other countries. When I enter any of those countries, at the airport, you see the security personnel. They are dressed. You show respect for them. Those people are the faces of the country when you enter. You see them, or you see the country through them. In Liberia, when you look at our police, you disrespect the country. So, what way the police look like? What is Tiawan Gongloe's vision for law enforcement officers in Liberia?
So that's it. And let's give it to past government. I mean, police are not Tubman and Talbot.
Right.
Even Honor Do were well dressed. There's no question about that. So, but now that image of the police that you are referring to now is the recent image is the current image of the police. A police officer, many of them, they talk to you, they say, I got only one uniform. I have to wash it, dry overnight to wear it. And it gets faded.
Yes.
You are right. You meet immigration officers at the airport in New York, you have to respect them. They are well dressed. You get in the street, you see police officers, they are well dressed. And the vehicles that they ride are good vehicles. They're not breaking down. Police vehicles do break down in many places in Monrovia, and the image of the police from an ordinary person view, from a visitor view, is not correct. You are right. So that's what I'm saying. Under my government, the police will be respected in every way. Their conduct, the way they appear, the way they do their business, their professionalism, everything will be something I'll pay attention to because I work with them. I know their weaknesses, I know their challenges, I know how to improve their performance. I know
in that case, your budget, should you be elected president, will not be more than the entire police force of Liberia. We know this to be true with our current administration. In fact, the president budget is more than the budget of the entire judiciary. That will not happen under a Gongloe presidency.
No, take it from me. It will not happen. One of the things I've said is that I really want to make the presidency of Liberia so unattractive when it comes to personal benefits of the president. Yeah, there will be a reduction in travel because many of the travels can be done by our foreign ministers and our ambassadors. They can represent us abroad. And if it is a matter that affects a particular sector of our economy, the minister or official government responsible for that sector can represent the president. When the president travels, so many security officers and different people travel with the president. It shouldn't be so, but that's a tradition in Liberia that, in fact, I will cut down because I know I work with President Sawyer. When you travel to another country as president, your security is in the hand of the host country. So why are you carrying all the security pool? You probably just have your AD camera behind you that's sufficient just to give you a flag that you got somebody behind you. But when you enter, as soon as you cross the border, you reach the immigration, if you have your armed security pool behind you, they take all their arms from them. And they become the ordinary president on the delegation. So why are you carrying all these people behind you? The president traveling with 2-3 persons, that's sufficient. I don't think I'll be traveling with more than 5 persons, and there has to be real explanation because travels are expensive.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to be staying abroad long, as President Weah is doing now. This is complete negligence of duty. It's like the situation that Liberia is under now, for any president to be staying away more than even 5 days, shows, reckless disregard for duty. Reckless insensitivity to the problems in the country right now. So I wouldn't do something like these. Are things that I've been criticizing in my life. The things I criticize, I don't do. When I worked with Dr. Sawyer, I was Solicitor General, our Minister of Labor. People will tell you, in the morning I used to pray and say, God, help me to resist the temptation of crossing the lines that I shout at other people for. And with the grace of God, I will still be praying to God, not for me to be a different person as president, because I don't think power changes people. People already have the inclination to do wrong, and when they have the opportunity, they actually reveal themselves. No power will change me.
So, Councillor Gongloe, some would talking about presidential travel. Let's look at diplomacy a little more. Most African leaders, in my observation, are begging the worst for money, for investment in so many areas. You mentioned the president travel now. His travel is 48 days. He spent 12 days in Qatar to watch a football game when Liberia is now represented. He's cheering for another nation. My bigger question here is, what is Councillor Gongloe's vision for engaging other nations and powerful nations who might be able to help Liberia? Will it be that same begging approach or mentality? Give her this, give her that. What would be your approach so that Liberia can be respected and not being seen as a beggar?
When I appeared at the State Department earlier this year, I can say this publicly, it's not one of the confidential contents of our conversation.
Okay.
I was asked, among 10 priorities of Liberia, what do you consider number one for America's support? I say, I want America to support free, fair, and transparent election, because I believe that Liberian people have the capability of electing the best leader or best leaders to lead their country in the presidency and the legislature, if the elections are free, fair, and transparent. Because when we have a good leader, then when America gave us assistance, that assistance would be known in the villages. But today, when America says we have given $200 million to support health services in Liberia, many of us, even the educated ones, can think it's not true, because we don't see it reflected on the ground. Besides that, a good president will reduce dependency on Europe and America, by good governance, because I strongly believe that Liberia has the capacity to get out of dependency. Because I was talking about Botswana, a landlocked country, no sea coast. Some countries rely only on the sea coast, fishery alone, to support their country. Now we have an evergreen country from Cape Mount to Cape Mount is a land full of forest, exotic trees that you don't find in any country. We have fertile soil. We have rivers, and yet we depend on Ivory Coast for electricity that has less body of water than we have. They have less rivers than we have. We have so many rivers. So what we are lacking of is leadership. And I strongly believe, I like to repeat this all the time. I watch, I think, CNN or one of the channels, and the Prime Minister of UAE was asked, what made this barren land that had camel and donkey at its mode of transport to be one of the preferences of tourists today, with all the tall buildings in Dubai? And the Prime Minister said one word: leadership. And I think he meant good leadership. And I think with good leadership, we can set one example that will transform Liberia and will make it difficult for any leader to come and and take Liberia backwards. So that's one of my missions, to set a very good example, make government so unattractive as a place only for service and no opportunity to steal.
And Councillor, talking about your answer that you have shared with folks at the State Department when you had an opportunity to talk with them, according to you, you said, well, if there's any way you can support Liberia, number one should be our election process. Wasn't that a coded way of you saying, hey, I'm better, I trust myself to do the right thing, so find a way to elect me through the election process so that Liberia can be able to get on a path to development? Was it not a coded language? And the reason I'm asking the question before you come in, Councillor, is our people. I don't think that our people are to the point where they will elect credible people, respected people in our country. Because how do I come to the conclusion? If, say, the discussion were about something of less importance, like noise, gossip, you will see people. But when we're talking something solid, substantive, something that other people will listen to and say, these are serious people, you don't see many of us. And if you look at our election, look at the people our people have been electing. They even tell you we'll elect this person because the person is bad. They tell us that. You know the history better than I do. I'm not saying Liberia has never elected good people, but I'm of the belief that for the most part in recent history, we have elected bad people. So was that not a coded language that you were using, saying, hey, some will support me through the election process because I'm better, and then Liberia will be on that path, to glory?
No, I'm just saying, help to create a level playing field, because I strongly believe I'm a very good player. And if there's a level playing field, I will win the game. That's all I was saying. But let me say, I'm an eternal optimist.
Okay.
Yes, there have been those situations. Our elections have always been considered free and fair, but many of us who closely look at the election have always seen cheating here and there. If you don't have enough money to put poll watchers at every polling station, believe me, you will be cheated, because people will go to money will exchange hands and they will mark the ballots and put it in there. And sometimes after election, the electors can be wondering, how come this person won in this polling station? We know in this town we voted for that person. And you have heard some people talking about it and saying, oh, me and all my supporters went to this place. How come we got only 2 or 3 votes? So we need free and fair election, with the international community having stationary observers, not roving observers who come to the polling station A, look at it a little bit, and they move from there. They go to polling station B or C. Then by the time you leave, things happen behind you. If the world commits money to have stationary observers at every polling station, that will help a lot for the credibility of the electoral process.
In other words, you are saying, if every vote is to be counted in every hamlet, in every village, at every precinct, Tiawan Gongloe stands a chance, because Tiawan Gongloe has a history of visiting about over 100 villages or towns in Nimba County, people that have never been reached before. Was that why you were trying to communicate that too?
Of course, I will win, because election is about the people. And how can you solve a problem that you don't know? I was really surprised to find out that presidential candidates have not been going to the people. They've only been stopping in the cities. I'm going to the people, and I'm discovering a lot. The places I went in Bom County and Nimba, I intend to continue all over, and I'm asking those who believe in my vision to support me. I'm not paying for this advertisement, but I'm asking people to support me logistically so that I can make the trip around the country, because I intend to do so, to go to every part of Liberia so I can have a clear understanding of all of the problems that Liberians are facing all over the country. In that way, when you say something is happening in Vubadi or Rakta or Feshta or in Barabo, I will know. I will have at least the picture in my mind. It will help me to empathize with the people, because I know their conditions. We cannot sit in Monrovia or go to only the big cities and know the Liberian people's problems.
And Councillor, these towns and villages you are reaching, one might want to believe election workers can always have difficulty reaching them. And some of them will be on the farm. And sometimes when we talk about voter education, has always been poor, especially in those villages that you've been able to reach. These are people who more than likely might not be able to vote because maybe election workers not reaching them. They're on the farm, they're not getting the necessary information. In that case, you being the only person who probably will reach them, and will more than likely vote for you, they might not do so because other election workers didn't reach there. They are on the farms. What you make of that? So how do you avoid that in terms of advocacy and their participation in the election, and that every vote counts? How do you do that? Given the election commission, we know.
When people care about something, they are prepared to go through all difficulties for it.
Okay.
So if the Liberian people are really excited about voting for a good leader so that their lives can be transformed for the better, even if it is 8 hours to go to a ballot box, they will walk 8 hours. So voter education about how to transform their lives is so important. And that's exactly what I've been doing. If you watch my videos, I've said, if you really believe what I'm saying, stand up. When they stand up, I tell them, then, but just know if you don't register, then you cannot vote for me to do these things I'm talking about. And they say, no, we'll vote for you. We're not going to farm that day, we'll register. We'll not go to the market day, the next time market day, we'll stay in town and register. So I'm doing that. In the process, I'm doing voter education and telling them they need why it is necessary for them to register and why it is necessary for them to vote. And I believe that the places I've gone, I've fired them up, and they are ready to change the situation. Because, in fact, when I enter town, they have the brooms already. They say we'll sweep them from power. When we sweep corruption, we'll join you.
I heard about the Holy Mary son will sweep corruption in one of the towns you visited.
Yeah, in a town called Blay, Lao Blay. That's where I heard the Holy Mary son. You listen to it, was really surprising.
Yep, I listened to it. And so, Councilor, on this particular aspect, our recent election that brought President we are now to power, I consider it as a revolution of the youth trying to elect somebody they saw as their kind, one of their own. So one might think that to win the next election might require some form of revolution. So is that within that line you are coming with the broom revolution? How do you lack of better word, magnify this broom revolution? I'm not sure it has gained steam yet. Maybe we need a revolution to get you elected. Don't you think so?
There's a broom carnival coming up soon in Liberia. It's being planned.
Okay.
And it will be participated in by Liberians from all over Liberia. But we haven't gone far, but the broom, everybody is hearing about the broom. When I enter town, people have their brooms already. So I know that the message is resonating. We are getting there. And it's easy to defeat President Weah because Liberian, the young people in Liberia voted for him because they felt that in the same way he succeeded in playing football, that he will succeed in improving their lives. But even everything about youth empowerment, especially in the area of sports, football, let me not say sports because sports include American football and different swimming and everything, but just football alone. I heard young people in Monrovia saying, oh, when we elect President we have Messi, Ronaldo, all the big players in Europe will come here to play. This place will be a country for football tourism, because the best player of the world will be president of Liberia. But to their disappointment, under President Weah's regime, our national football pitch was declared unfit for playing international game, which denied the young people of Liberia any opportunity to see players from other countries play for them to improve their talents. President Doe built that stadium and kept it up to date. And to his credit, he is the one that created international football player George Weah, Salinsa, Joe Nangbe, Christopher Mre, and named them over 10 international players. It was Doe sports program and his motivation. You were in Liberia, you used to see President Doe put George Weah and others, the entire national team, squeeze up in his open top car, and the president
used to take them to the milestone.
Drive them to the airport. Even the place where President Weah built is for the 7-story building was a land given by President Doe to the football team, which I understand he has bought from his colleagues because he has more money. And so Doe gave all kinds of incentives to the players, and he also motivated them in different ways and provided supporter sport. At least that credit cannot be taken from him. You know, that's why Honor President Sawyer some people are talking about changing SKD name. He said, no, nobody can take that from Samuel Doe. They try Honor President Salif, she said the same thing. So he felt that, and he had not been able to produce one international football player. Rather, as you just said to me, he went to Qatar and spent 12 days to watch his son, who was developed by the Europeans and Americans. He doesn't take credit for what his son is doing today. But he's president of Liberia and should make Liberian youth to be what his son is today in the area of sport. More than that, there are so many young people in Liberia who are unemployed because they don't have vocational and technical skills to enter the job market, you know. And so when you talk to them and say, oh, sometimes we the older people teach them, say, the coming elections, some older people can say, we are going to vote for George at this time. Sometimes the young people can insult you. Oh, you wicked and you follow witchcraft. What wrong with you? They cannot suffer with the honor going. You want to suffer again. And that is why Darius Dillon won George Weah in Monrovia twice. It was not political Weah or T5 that Darius Dillon won. It was the anger, mass anger against the misrule of President Weah, against all of the expectations that made him to lose, that made CDC to lose Monserrato County. And I strongly believe CDC will lose all of the counties in similar manner in the coming election.
And Councillor Gongloe, you just spoke eloquently on the era of sports. Stay on the youth. Your vision is also talking about education. And it reads here that you will empower the youth by investing heavily in a comprehensive youth program that includes compulsory, high-quality, free primary and secondary education, as well as youth sports and athletics program in schools and community to promote entertainment, incite competition, improve physical fitness, and prevent crime. This is your vision for the youth of Liberia. Why is that important, and how are you going to execute it if you are elected as president?
So if you don't have a strong primary and secondary program, then few of your children would be qualified to enter college, right? And you need the children of your country to go to college, to become your scientists, to become medical doctors, to become engineers, to become historians, to become good journalists, all of the fields, you see? So, high school is preparation for the next level. That is why I want to emphasize it. We don't have science laboratories in most of our schools. People graduate from high school without having one textbook, not reading, not English, nothing, not math. When I went to school, I had math book. It is textbooks that make teaching easy because the instructors can give homeworks to students. They can assign them places in the book to read so that the next day when he's teaching, they can be on the same page with the teacher and understand. We don't have textbooks in our schools. Like I said, we don't have science laboratory. Now, in many African countries, they're having computer science laboratories. We don't have libraries. These are the things that make learning easy and make teaching easy as well. We need to have those. We need to have vocational and technical schools in the 15 counties for our young people. Some of them high school dropouts, elementary school dropouts, just high school graduates who cannot make it to college. Let them learn tailoring, mechanic work, carpentry, and bricklaying, and all of those technical skills so they can be able to enter the job market, be self-employed, and contribute to the development and progress of Liberia. All they are doing now is riding motorcycle, and they are doing it for their living. It's good. Not to engage in crime, they are doing that, but they cannot do that when they pass 40 years old. Their back will be hurting, but they will have family to take care of. And so they need skills to be able to earn money and take care of their families. We talk about sports. Look, if you have comprehensive sports program that includes swimming, running, track and field, cricket, and all of not just basketball, volleyball, and football, that the only thing that I know in Liberia, but there are so many different sports programs, and there are people who cannot play basketball, who are not interested in basketball, volleyball, or football, who might find themselves interested in another type of sport, maybe running, or high jump, or anything.
Maybe boxing.
Or boxing, or karate, and they could be going to the Olympic representing Liberia. and they could become professionals in those sports and then earn money and be, sending money back to Liberia or live in Liberia and making money. And both, all of the things, a quality educational program will keep the children busy. So they're not going to get in the street to engage in crime. Vocational educational program will keep them busy because they have apprenticeship thing, they have to go to workshop here, there. They will keep them busy the whole day. Sports, comprehensive sports program in the community and in the schools will keep the children quite busy. So the energy that should be used in committing crime will be used for positive things, for going to school, for getting vocational skills, for playing sports. We will reduce the work of our police just by a comprehensive youth empowerment program.
And according to your vision, any such investment and emphasis on the youth will also lead Liberia to qualifying for the World Cup and the African Cup of Nations. The question I have is, how is that important? We see other nations that are participating in the World Cup. We see flying their national, colors at the World Cup, so other countries and other leaders get to know about those countries. Why is that important to Tiawan Gongloe for Liberia to be known at the World Cup, the African Cup, or other competitions in the world?
If you provide a strong sports program, you make your young people feel so good when they also participate in those international competitions. It makes them feel good about their government empowering them, and they feel proud that they are able to raise the flag of their country there too, among other young people, and it makes any nation proud. I mean, when I saw America playing the other day, I was at the airport in Minnesota at the World Cup. And although soccer is not a big thing in America, but everyone was waiting for the plane because of snow, and everybody was waiting, everyone was watching. When America scored, I heard everybody at the airport saying, "Hey," clapping.
Yeah.
So people feel good. And good feeling is good. Bad feeling is just bad for everything. Good feeling puts you in the mood to do more positive things. I heard someone saying on the platform that I was on last night that, look, when you smile and you feel good, you can achieve a lot. So it's good for the nation to feel good. We also have the capacity to excel in sports, and that will make Liberia a leading country as it was meant to be. We can't just be saying we are the oldest independent country, then we can't compete with the younger independent countries that largely got their independence in the 1960s. It is good for our country. And sports can promote tourism too. It brings a lot of money in the country. It brings investment. Don't you see Magic Johnson them are big business people after retiring from basketball?
Exactly.
So you could create, that's another way of creating millionaires outside government. We could have many of our young people becoming millionaires just from playing sports.
And talking about millionaires, that's how President Weah became a millionaire sometime, according to reports, right?
Exactly.
So, Councillor, tourism now is big, and you know it well. It has become more than $1 billion industry in most countries. And I've heard from folks the last time we have a gentleman here by the name Chris, who has devoted time to tourism. And he said Liberia is most suited for tourism than any country that he knows in Africa. He said we have from Cape Palmas all the way to Montserrat, you have that coastline. Not many countries have that. He said that alone can give Liberia billions before talking about, historical sites, and other natural, sites like, lakes that we have and all that. What is Gongloe's vision when it comes to tourism in Liberia as another source of generating revenue? Because all the big plans you're talking about, you need the money. And somewhere you need to get money is the tourism. So talk to me about that. What's your vision?
What many Liberian people don't know is that I have I got training in two of the fields that are really good for leadership.
Okay.
I have a degree in economics. Economics is called the queen of the social sciences.
Exactly.
And there's a theory in economics called comparative advantage.
Okay.
You take advantage of what you have above other countries. Our coastline, we have maybe the longest coastline on the West African coast. And that can be a big money earner. Some time ago, I was lawyer for three young men from Europe who came and started a surfing business in Rappersport.
Mhm.
And they were teaching the young people there surfing. And yet, the entire coast from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas
Mhm.
can be used for surfing by people coming from all over the world.
Right.
And our hotels will make a lot of money. People who sell drinks and other things will make a lot of money. People who sell their tie-dye and other clothing and artifacts will make a lot of money. And that way, the taxes on those money will carry our revenue way up. So it is true. Besides the sea coast, and it's all sendable. When I was Solicitor General, I used to travel around the country in unmanned helicopter, and I said, wow, everywhere you see these lagoons, small lakes all over the place. And you have a sandy coast. Sandy, in
Yeah.
some countries, some places are rocks, but from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, it's all sandy along the beach with palm forest line of palm trees,
Coconut
coconuts,
trees.
coconuts and all palm trees line up. These are things that many people have not seen, and they will just come to be there and take pictures. Then go to the waterfalls. You know, when you go to a bathing waterfall, for example, I just love it when I go there. I like swimming. I will swim there. Bathing waterfalls. There are so many Patawi, so many waterfalls all over the country, and people will want to go there. By the way, waterfall also can be used for electricity. You know,
Mhm.
so I mean, we have then the mountains we have. For example, we went to Bonkande. There's a place between Palala and Zointa.
Mhm.
There's a rocky mountain. There's all big rock, huge mountain. And somehow somebody started praying there, and we saw it for the first time. They call it the Prayer Mountain.
Mhm.
And now many people are going there from Monrovia to the Prayer Mountain. Can you imagine if that thing is promoted? It could raise millions of dollars, and somebody could put a hotel right by the Prayer Mountain because people go there and spend weeks. It's between Palala and Zebe, you know, in Bonkande, in the Pai area. So we have so many areas that even some people are not seeing mahogany. Go to our forest, Eki, some of the exotic tropical species that you can't find anywhere in the world are staying in Liberia. And the diameter of some of the trees, you know. So some people will just go. A few years ago, I went to Rappersport on a weekend with my wife, and we saw three white men in the hotel we slept in, a motel we slept in. And we said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "We came to study birds, tropical birds
Can you imagine that?
in Cape Mount here." And they were showing all the slides on their computer, different types of birds, and studying the life of the birds. And we have different types of birds. Like we have the pygmy hippopotamus that does not exist anywhere in the world except Liberia. So there are too many things that can make Liberia, that can make tourism blossom in Liberia. But attention is not paid to that. Under President Salif, our cultural center, for example, was broken down and given to someone to build a hotel there. And the government has done nothing to build a cultural center. I intend to build an elaborate cultural center, not just for dancing, but to teach young people to produce our traditional tools, our traditional mat, baskets, you know, even weaving our traditional clothes, you know, so that people come and see. And there are still people in Liberia who are still strong enough to come and pass tradition over We'll bring them to the cultural center, pay them to teach our young people how to plant mud, how to make the country pot. That when you go to a place that's Sapo Swaken in the Grebo area, they make very good pots, to come and teach our young people how to make clay pots, how to do the blacksmith hoes and cutlasses. All these different things need to be passed on. And some people want to come and see Liberian people doing it. Our traditional instruments. We need, you see what Salif Keita, everybody wants to go to Mali because Salif Keita has popularized the traditional musical instruments of Mali. The same thing in the Gambia. These same traditional instruments, we had our own in Liberia. The sangba, you know that?
Yeah.
The people beat the sangba.
Even the crew war dance in the Southern area.
The crew war dance, the flute. All of these traditional instruments can be revived. But there was a time in our country where people felt being traditional meant being uncivilized. And so people were getting away from their traditions so that they can be considered civilized. They didn't want to wear their traditional clothing. They didn't want to engage in, to do their traditional music and everything. So we can revive tourism. I think it's billions of dollars to our country.
And Councillor, even our food, I'm told that Liberia jollof rice is the best in the world. Now, if you contrast that with something they call sushi, there are some people that leave the United States and all parts of the world just to go to China or Japan just to eat this sushi. And restaurants are across the globe for sushi. And it's identified with a particular nation, that has that particular recipe. And these are the things that can drive people to a nation. And before you come in, you talk about a prayer on a mountain somewhere. I visited Arizona and somewhere called Sedona in the High Mountains. They built a Catholic church on one of the mountains. And people are traveling from all parts of the U.S. to go there. When I visited the place, the cars were lined up. You see, and the money people spend to go to that place alone is boosting the economy of that state.
There's also, I think it's fish town or ragta in Hapo. I remember way back. There is one type of fish, I think it's green or so. And it only exists in that particular place. So people could go to see it. Yeah. When you go to, there's a town between Palala and Banga. Everybody stopped there to see the catfish that in our water. That is a source of tourism. There are too many things that are in our country that could be, used for tourist attraction. Like that mountain I'm talking about, during this dry season, it burns. Like during the rainy season, the grass grows on it a little bit. But during the dry season, you just see it burning. The entire mountain will get burned. And then people keep going up there. They have put a signboard there, the Prayer Mountain. And I believe that's something that I could believe can make people motivated to go see what is happening. People go to the Jordan River, right? Yeah. And people go to the Ganges River in India for tourism. Yeah. We have similar places in Liberia to see. More than that, we have slave posts in Liberia. Exactly. All of the places of journey of no return were not only in Ghana, they were also in Liberia. Slaves were taken out of Liberia. We could identify those places and also make people to come and see them. Besides the fact, we should be getting more African-American tourists than any country in Africa. Because Liberia historically was the first to produce an African-American president, Joseph Jenkins Roberts from Norfolk, Virginia. Exactly. E.J. Raw from New Jersey, a businessman who went to Liberia. We have all of these people, and there are people who can trace their linkages to those people. And those families, J.J. Roberts family, E.J. Raw family, Stephen Allen Benson family, Ping, all these people, they could say, you know what? We are going to Liberia, where our folks went and became president. And they could be coming to Liberia. More than, in greater number, if the history is told properly, They could be coming to Liberia when there's good government that protects people and respects the rule of law so that people feel secure. When a matter go to court, there's justice. People will come, and Liberia could make billions of dollars from tourism more than any country in Africa.
Two things finally, because of time, and we'll bring in some comments here from our viewers. Councillor, you can be brief as possible. You've spoken very well on the fight against corruption, and I'm going to go into that today. But I want to focus on something you also talk about, entrepreneurship in Liberia. You study economics. Economics is tied to business. There are businesses in Liberia. You talk about the Decent Work Act, something my understanding is that you have been promoting also. You said Liberia must create millionaires in the private sector. So let's talk about entrepreneurship and the Gongloe's vision. How do you create the enabling environment in the private sector for Liberians exclusively? I'm not saying you are excluding, other foreign nationals who will come to Liberia to do business, but your emphasis being on Liberia to make Liberian business entrepreneurs and millionaires in Liberia. How do you do it? What's your vision there?
I'm not shy or scared to say there will be some degree of exclusivity in favor of Liberians under my government. It happens here. It happens everywhere in the world. There are some jobs here that you can put only American citizens apply. Exactly. So we'll do the same thing in our country. There will be businesses. There are businesses that only Liberians can do. We'll enforce that law. We'll make sure. And then I will revive the housing bank. I know the housing bank. I did some legal work for the housing bank before. All the business people down Waterside, that's the bank they used to go to. See, that's the bank they used to go to. Deposit the money every day at the end of the day, and they used to borrow from housing bank. That is what kept, housing bank up. It was also a bank from which people are getting loan to build houses. All right. So it helped our infrastructure. I will also revive the Agriculture and Cooperative Development Bank. So for investment in our agriculture program, for commercial agriculture, but in the first 100 days, we will set up a small commission, a small committee. Actually, because commissions are created by law, a small task force to evaluate different proposals for giving loans to Liberian entrepreneurs. We want to give loan to Liberian entrepreneurs. They will set up the criteria for assessing those loans so that, and for small businesses, big businesses will not qualify. We want to have small businesses multiply in Liberia, because they can create jobs in any economy. So we will do that, to jumpstart the entrepreneurial activities in Liberia. You have to help them. Even here, what the big world was bailed out, right?
Yeah.
This country bailed out even Wall Street. So why can't we assist our little business people, give them soft loan, and not give them stringent conditions like some of the banks in Liberia that makes it difficult for the small business people when they take loan. By the time, in short time, the time has arrived and they are losing their collaterals as a result of that. People are losing their houses and all that. Our objective would be to empower the Liberian business people. So that housing bank building, that door bill, will complete it, and housing bank will be revived.
Councillor Gongloe, finally, the Liberia-US relation is key. You know that well than I do. Looking at our history, the tradition, and the establishment of Liberia, and so on and so forth. How do you intend to engage the US in a way that brings Liberia the dividend it deserves? We have this relationship with the US. I'm of the opinion that our leaders in the past, it's like they are now bold. They have not been able to engage the US in a way that will make the US to make the necessary investment in Liberia. So simple question. Liberia-U.S. relation, how does Tiawan Gongloe engage the U.S. for Liberia to benefit significantly?
We strengthen our relationship. You know, I don't blame any country for our underdevelopment.
Okay.
I think it's because our leaders have not used this relationship properly. You know, and so people tend to blame United States, blame other people. I in my life I like to be. I don't like dependency. I like to depend on myself. I like to look at what I do more. And in our country, don't we have that thing we say, you wash your belly and somebody can wash your bike, right? But in Liberia, the government wants the belly to be washed by America and the bike ought to be washed by America. That is not possible. It is the citizen taxpayers' money that the governments convince them to spend on you. And sometimes, and they spend it on our government that have been largely corrupt. They abuse this friendship by the level of corruption in Liberia. And that is why I say I will fight corruption, because that will then revive the strength of the relationship we had before. And it will make it even much better, because when the taxpayers are convinced that the money they give as donation to our country is being wisely used by the leader, more of it will come. Although we'll not depend on it so much, we want to use whatever money they give to increase our capacity to be self-reliant.
All right. And finally, I can't leave you without bringing in the issue of the DRC. You have been ringing this bell, and it has come to the point where every time we elect a leader, talking about president, they will show no interest because either they are working with those who have been accused. Will that not be the case with Tiawan Gongloe? And why would the issue of healing our country, the the uh, the Work and Economic Crimes Code, why would that be something so key to your presidency in terms of implementation?
I think it is deception when we prosecute someone for slapping someone or for shooting someone. One person, one person killed one person, and we hold that person, put him or her in jail for murder. But we leave people who kill thousands of people. I think it's deception.
Okay.
And until we deal with the issue of war and economic crimes, there are people who messed up our economy by looting electric wires, looting generators that belong to the country, and selling them. These are well recorded, and they benefited from some of them are rich today. We have to put a closure to that chapter. Until we put a closure to that chapter, we will be promoting impunity. And you cannot promote rule of law by promoting impunity. Everyone who commits crime has to be held accountable. There's no other way about it. You know, so I'm not going to be, interestingly, I think everyone is going towards the implementation of the TRC recommendation. I believe that when President Weah comes here, the Washington, D.C. will tell him to do what is right. I strongly believe they will hold a private meeting with him and say, if if you don't do this, sanction is a small thing. But United States, if Taylor could not stand United States weight, I think George Weah, who can touch Taylor's pole in terms of power, he can't even touch Taylor's toe in terms of power, is not going to waver. And interestingly, I watched the debate of 2017. All of the candidates, the presidential candidates, except Benin Yuri, supported the war crimes and the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court. Today, I've heard the other candidates changing their position to this position, which means they now see Europe and America moving towards accountability, and they don't want to be on the left side. All right?
So my follow-up to that, Councillor, if you don't mind, quickly, Councillor, if you don't mind, my follow-up is that the U.S., even though we can say they've done it indirectly, but it's done. Tom, you were held accountable because he lied on an application that he was involved with the Liberian War, and so they got him that. We talk about Camara in France. I'm sure you heard about the trial, and few others that have been tried by, quote unquote European country for crimes they committed in Liberia. The question is, you being a lawyer and being in this field and being advocating for justice in Liberia, if you were president, let's say the international community were dragging its feet on establishing a war court. I'm not sure that's going to be the case because the U.S. has vowed that, hey, we'll provide the money and all that. What will you be doing? Because these crimes that were committed, one can argue, were also committed against the state. Some people took up arms against a constitutional government. They killed Liberians. We saw them. Will you use our court system to get some of these people? If people, file
Well,
complaint against them, the court
let
of
me
law?
say, I've actually done that before.
Thank you.
There was a case with Thomas Say or something. A man was accused by a woman of killing her husband in they call it Third World War, the 2003 war.
Right.
And he was indicted before I got to the Ministry of Justice. And while I was there, we had him tried twice. But each time the jury did not bring any verdict, guilty or not guilty. There was a hung jury 2 times. So his lawyer, the late Councillor Galawolo, filed a motion for admission to bail. And the court granted the man bail, and he was set free. And I believe he left the country because it's been difficult to see the defendant since then. So we use our law at the time because, the murder is murder. Whether it happened during wartime or not, it is murder. And there's no statute of limitation for murder. Once somebody commits murder, the person can be tried anytime. What we don't have on our law is crime against humanity. That is an international, humanitarian law. And there's no statute of limitation for that. But there's an interesting development. Some group of Liberians who say they are victims of the Lutheran Church massacre have filed a case against the government of Liberia for its failure to hold the people who the perpetrators of the crime against them at Lutheran Church accountable. So they have taken their case to the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. So it's a new development that we are looking at.
All right. Before we go to the viewers' comments and questions there, decentralization. What is your vision on that, and how is that important to you?
I strongly believe in decentralization of the government and the economy. I believe power belongs to the people. And the only way people can participate in the governance is to have a say in how they are governed from the town to the presidency. Town chief should be elected. Clan chief should be zone chief, clan chief, paramount chief should be elected. Even superintendents should be elected. City mayors, all these people should be elected. In that way, they will be accountable to the people who elected them. Today, even the town chiefs are accountable only to the president, so they don't have time for the people in their towns.
And that counties can coordinate their own elections, as we see in the U.S. The states are in charge of the elections that are happening in the states, and the federal government just provides the funding.
And we can look at the state government. The state government do the same. So we can look at Liberia, take one state and compare. And so we say that our pattern of governance by the Constitution is patterned after the government of the United States, even though we are not a federal country, but the 3 branches of government, the separation of powers, and all that are concepts that will borrow from the United States through the draft of our Constitution, Seymour Greenleaf. So we need to do that. And we need to decentralize the economy in the same manner, because today, every major economic activity is in Monrovia, except for the oil palm plantation, the rubber plantation, and the mining, metal steel, and the gold mining industries. But we can decentralize the economy. And this is my method of decentralizing the economy. I've said that when I become president, every 50 miles out of Monrovia, when you establish a value addition company, we will reduce your taxes and give you other incentives. And it will be graduated based on distance. So if you're 100 miles away, you will get more than the person who got a factory 50 miles. To the extent that when a factory is established in your home, I think you come from Sino or Maryland, any factory established in Sofiton, Liberia, Barclayville, Harper, and other places, we have very low tax burden in terms of corporate taxes. But you know what? When 500 persons are employed in Barclayville, for example, those 500 persons will earn income, and from payroll tax, government will earn income. So they will make money and government will make money too. Those 500 employees will rent houses from the people in Barclayville and the adjoining towns. The real estate owners will earn income. Government will tax the income that they will receive. So then government revenue base will be expanding. It is the revenue that government will get, that government will use to provide free education, free quality and compulsory education in various parts of the country, to allow for pregnant women to go to hospital free of charge, for children below the age of 5 to get free access to medication, for those of us who are 65 years and above to get free medication. So our government will be working for everybody, but based on the expanded revenue base through decentralization of the economy. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. And I'll be asked, would that include the institutions of government as well? We see all the ministries and agencies, everything in Montserrado County.
You know,
are you going to move some of that out?
Under the governance commission of Dr. Amos Sawyer, they piloted decentralization by creating county service centers in few counties, so that people can get their driver licenses, their vehicle license plates, their marriage licenses, deeds, the registration of their deeds. All these things can be decentralized. Before, many of the things were happening only in Monrovia. And that was it slowed down every activity. It slowed down, business registration. You have to come to Monrovia. So it slowed down even making business. And so that is being tried. But with the bad governance, it is not working well. But it is a good idea. So deconcentration is on the path to decentralization.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we will be reading your comments and questions for the counselor to respond. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Anthony C. hosting in this edition of our programs. Let us go into the comment section here. This one from Zenambia Tia Taylor. Most of the Liberian people can indeed make the sacrifices to vote, but this can only be done if we are sure of our votes being counted as it should so in the election. And so she said, my question to Councillor Gongloe is, how does he intend to contribute towards a free and fair presidential and general election in 2023 in Liberia? Councillor, let me read most of the comments and then you can respond. You can take note as you see fit. This one from Adson Saba, Councillor Tiawan Gongloe, with reference to the rule of law, how can we increase revenues through cases pending at the judiciary that are affecting development, more so employment opportunities? This one is from Aminat Bintu Mamun. Leadership in Africa, more especially Liberia, is like a spectator or a player waiting on the bench, I believe. They can see all the faults of the players on the field until you put them there. Let me read this one from Ezekiel. Oh my Lord, please remove. Okay, this person is talking about something else. This is from Victor C. I know this Victor C. guy is my late brother. I think I told you he's your big supporter. Uh, my mom once said a person that accept advice or better listening to willing to change in a common world. Mr. Tiawan Gongloe, welcome. Anybody giving an open door to all Liberian folks, mark my words. If he becomes president, next president comes 2023, that mansion will be open to all Liberians, provided when you, the individual, have good plan or idea for Liberia. That's your supporter, so it's obvious we will be speaking in your direction here. Ezekiel here writes, good evening, my dear president in waiting comes 2023. We are waiting for Lane Street, Monrovia, Liberia. I don't know what that person is saying.
We are watching.
Okay, watching the person meant to say. Okay. Councillor Gongloe, according to Washington Boca, right? Hi, sir. Upon your ascendancy as president of the Republic of Liberia, what will be your first infrastructure developmental priorities you would like to implement within the scope of a year or two? Let's hear from Mr. Kwakwo. Was the relationship in the past with the U.S. on equal terms or a loop-sided that person writes. Let's hear from Flomo Augusta P. The U.S. did not say they will provide the money. The Liberian people do not want war and economic crimes code. Only opposition politicians want it. Even the CDC in opposition, they seem, I think the U.S. said that they will provide the funding and the resources. They said that. Let's hear from Dende S.K. Kake, who I got that right, Councillor Gongloe. Will you agree if asked to join Ellis Comey as maybe on a ticket? I strongly support that. That person concludes there. Let's hear from Ja Eddie. The councillor outlined the implementation of free education, medication, etc. How are we going to get the needed resources given our very small budget? Jimmy Eastman, comrade, we revere you. Yeah, we revere you. So to be a man of integrity, send LU days, somebody who knows you, I believe. But navigate Liberia's political theater is quite daunting. Do you think you have the verbiage that will resonate with the masses and make you the most popular candidate? Let's hear from this person that is Sayonpodi eccentric. These people get names, Councillor. How does the Councillor hope to end the epidemic of rape and gender-based violence? Let me see this one. TSG is the best candidate comes 2023. This one from Flomoye again, Mr. Gongloe. It has been said that the U.S. government sanction was based on U.S. investigation. How come then that Councillor Verdier yesterday claimed responsibility of the sanction through lobbying? This final one from Ezekiel S. Wilson. Mr. C, please read my first text message in a prayer for the councillor.
This is a prayer.
Okay. It's a prayer for the councillor. Thank you, councillor. Yeah, just a few comments there, councillor. Your response, please.
Well, some of them are statements. So Wilson's prayer, I can't make comment to, I can't make statement. If you just flag them one by one, please. Can you flag them one by one, please, from the beginning?
Oh, yeah, then I have to go back to them. They are many, but let me read one for you to respond. Yeah. Councillor Gongloe, this is from Swab Mapu. Councillor Gongloe, why aren't you and others seizing the movement? All of you are proposing, you and others are proposing isn't going to secure a safe and fair election. The whole process going forward has been tempered with negative things. I think she's talking about the U.S. ambassador saying seize the movement, and she's saying you people are not seizing the movement. I don't know.
Well, that's an admonition.
Mhm.
That's an advice. So
Mhm.
she's right. We
Mhm.
need to do more to hold the government feet to the fire to make sure that there's reversion of some of the negative things that are happening.
Mhm.
But just to do justice to all the comments as they were coming fast, if you can just flag them, I remember them,
Mhm.
some of them. Someone, the short one is, are you going to go on the same ticket with Cummins? Cummins belong to a different political party as the ANC. I belong to LPP. Now, our political parties have to meet and talk. The last time I
Mhm.
checked, Cummins was in a collaboration with 3 other political parties. I mean,
Mhm.
his party was in collaboration with 3 other political parties. I strongly believe that if that collaboration had held, even if I wanted to run, a lot of Liberians will have said, look, we have the opposition together. We don't want any other person to jump in the race. But they took long time together, over a year, and they really put it together a good time, more than 2 years before the election. Right now, things like, but it failed. And then you heard speculation, there is a black horse coming. There is an alternative coming. People are yearning for an alternative. And frankly, I am the alternative among those who failed. So, I don't want to be inconsistent. Yeah. I would like to work with Cummins, Buckeye, anybody, even George. We are on the interest of Liberia. But I'm not sure that collaboration in terms of having one ticket can be done within the time left to go to election. Right now, everybody is virtually campaigning. Everyone is going out looking for the votes in different ways. And I've not heard, I think the time for it, I've been involved with a collaboration discussion from way back 1997, and collaboration has not been able to succeed. I think simply because, again, we are probably influenced by the American political tradition where all the parties go competing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the time, I'm not sure whether we have time now left from getting away from our party activities to go sit down and for days and weeks to be debating, thinking, crossing the T's and the I's, when people spend all their time and produce a document that they could not live by. So I'm not sure whether it's the time, as much as collaboration is good, I'm not sure whether the timing is there for collaboration.
Oh,
Um,
this
somebody
one
else?
from Cole Formula, brilliant Councillor Gongloe always provides context. That's somebody Carl is impressed with what you are submitting here. One of the comments was asking what would be your in terms of infrastructure, what will you
Yeah,
be implementing in the
I'll
first?
put I'll put
Mhm.
education first, building more
Mhm.
school buildings,
Mhm. Okay.
building more school buildings. I want to school in a town where the next infrastructure project will be road, but building school, the roads, the existing roads will be maintained. But
Mhm.
in terms of building new infrastructure, I will start with schools. We need more schools like day before yesterday, not even like yesterday.
Mhm.
And you can have children going to school in a town that has no road. I went to school in Mela Public School when you had to walk whole day to get to the nearest road. But the textbooks were there. Under President Tubman, the textbooks were brought to Mela. I was in Prima 1, Prima 2. I was reading, there was this orange color book that I was reading in Prima 2. So the books were there. You can have children going to school even without road. So education is so important that my first infrastructure project will go on education throughout the country. And then we're meeting the existing roads. People can use motorbikes to carry textbooks to existing schools. So we'll start with school buildings first.
Thank you, Councillor. Because of time, our time, yes, is all gone. We will now say what will be your closing uh, to Liberians listening and those who are listening later. You are running for
Many,
president.
many of the questions asked are rhetorical. Some of them are based on people's settled positions already. Like some people say, we don't believe what presidential aspirants say because many people have said things and they didn't do it. Most of the questions were like that. So watch me. Watch my career as Solicitor General. Watch my career as a lawyer. Watch my career as president of the bar, minister of labor, and ask people how Councillor Gongloe was, whether he's a man of words, whether when he does something he can do it. That is left with people to scrutinize. But I want to close by saying my vision is to make Liberia what we have always aspired for, a sweet land of liberty for all Liberians. I want a Liberia, as when I become president, after 2 years, Liberians will be reluctant to leave Liberia and come to America and go to other places, and they will be running back to Liberia. That is what they call a sweet land of liberty. It will attract all Liberians, and they will be concerned, they will be interested in developing Liberia. I was here in 1990 in New York, and there were so many South Africans everywhere. Even the Shabalala group was in Boston. As soon as Mandela became president, all the South Africans left. You don't even see South Africans anymore anywhere in America, and there were over 1 million of them here. But they're going home. People love to be home. And I want Liberia to be the home that Liberians would love to be and not to depart from. A sweet land of liberty for a majority, for all of the Liberians, and a difficult and a harsh land for the crooks. They'll be running away from government. When I become president, many people will not want government job after 2 years.
All right, you heard it. Councillor, we want to say thank you for accepting our invitation and speaking to Liberians and also answering our questions. We thank you, and we thank you. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. On that note, folks, this song says we are all Liberians, and that song is taking us home. Bye-bye.
We are Liberians.